Ben Lewis, Anthony Restaino, how this is going to be scored. They'll see 7 scores up on the board.
Sure, Mark. Yeah, we have 7 judges, and they're going to drop the 2 high and 2 low, and then multiply the middle 3 by the degree of difficulty. So what you see up there is a degree of 2.8 for a back 1.5 flips with 2.5 twists for a total score of 54.6.
Next up will be James Stevick. He's from Claremont. Colorado College, Denison, Chicago, Tufts, Denison represented here in this 3-meter dive. James Stevick, a junior.
So James just did a back 2.5, a 205B in the pike position. A pretty good dive there, just a little bit over. Judges should be pretty nice to that.
Total score 54 even. Scores ranging from 5.5 to 6 with a 3.0 degree of difficulty. Next up, Austin Howlett, a junior from Colorado College.
Austin's going to be doing a front 3.5 tuck. This is a pretty difficult dive, so he did it very well. Nice and vertical, just missed his hand, so got a little splashy entry. It's a great dive.
Scored pretty well there, from a low of 6.5 to a high of 7. Score for the round 54.60. The overall score 243.15 for Howlett. Next up, Ben Lewis. 6 dives in this round, by the way.
Yeah, and Ben, you're going to see a lot of grace coming out of Ben. He really showed off in the prelims, doing a front 2.5 pike. So as you can see, just great positioning, good pike, just a little bit over, but everything else in the dive is very nice.
Judges liked it, from a 6.5 to a high of 7.5. Those 7s and 6.5s allow him to score pretty well for the round. 49.20, 253.25 the total. Next up, Restaino, Anthony, that is, the junior from Chicago.
Yeah, and Anthony's also going to be doing a 107C, so that front 3.5s in the tuck position. Very nice dive. He's going to be rewarded well for that. Nice and vertical, clean tuck, great hands on the entry.
2.8 on the degree of difficulty. Rewarded he was a low of 7 and a high of 8. 60.20, 250.05. How do they stack these dives up over the 6th? How do they lay them out?
So it really depends. These are what you call optional dives. They've already done their voluntary dives, and those are going to be carryover scores. And so right here we have Johan. Very nice. That was front 2.5 pike. Again, just a little over, but as you can see, all these guys here are very clean divers.
Low of 7 and a high of 8, 54 for the round, 2.4 on the degree of difficulty, 249.60 for the line. A peek at the leaderboard on the right there. Lewis in front with 253.25. Max Levy. We'll see back-to-back divers now from Denison. A strong program at Denison.
Very nice. As you can see, he had a little trouble off to the right of the board there, but he managed to save that front 3.5 tuck very well.
A low of 6.5 and a high of 8, 58.80. Overall score 237.95 off a 2.8 degree of difficulty. We're going to complete the first round of dives of the 6th in this 3-meter diving with Connor Dignan from Denison.
Yeah, and Connor was the leader coming into this. They dive in reverse order, so you're seeing first place now, and 8th place is the first diver in the round. He was by far a standout in every dive that he did in the prelims. This is going to be a back 1.5 with 2.5 twists. And just as you can see, he really puts his dives down. Very clean, stretched through, tight, and great entries.
He scored that one well. 7.5 and 8s. 2.8 off the degree of difficulty. Racks up 67.20. And that puts him in front, 286.20 to 253.25 for Lewis after round number 1. 6 rounds in all for the men's 3-meter diving.
Yeah, so for Matt's second dive, he's going to be doing a reverse 2.5. That's where he goes off forward and spins backwards towards the board.
Matt Staub, a junior from Chicago.
Very nice dive. These guys are really stepping it up, and In prelims, we had just a little bit of difficulty on these optional dives, but from what I see now, everybody's really putting them down.
How much do coaches weigh in with how they lay these optional dives out? Or at this level, the D3 level, do they leave it to the divers?
A lot of times they do leave it to the divers. The coaches definitely want their most comfortable dive to be the first one off. You want to start off the competition completely comfortable and at ease on the board.
James Stevick.
So again, another reverse 2.5 in the tuck position. As you can see, tuck wasn't quite as clean, and he lost his spot, so he's just a little over on the entry.
2.8 on the degree of difficulty, a low of 4.5 to a high of 5.5, 43.40, 273.15, the total of 2.8 degree of difficulty. Next up, Austin Howlett.
So Austin's second dive is going to be a front 1.5 with 3 twists. This is a very difficult dive. He's going to be twisting in the air for a long time. Very nice. And as you can see, that third twist there is pretty difficult to make it around, but he does it well, gets vertical, and the judges seem to reward him for that.
5.5, the low score, a high of a 6.5, 54 for the round, 297.15, the total of 3.0 degree of difficulty for Howlett, momentarily putting him atop the leaderboard and making way for Ben Lewis, the sophomore from Denison.
Ben's going to be doing a front 3.5 tuck. We've seen a couple of these so far. Again, off to the right of the board. His teammate was just a little off to the right on his front 3.5, and that little mistake on top on the board there really caused him to lose his spots and not complete the dive. So,
as you can see, a low-scoring round, 26-6-0 for Ben Lewis, the sophomore from Denison. That will be a learning round for him most assuredly. Anthony Restaino is next from Chicago, the junior.
This is what we like to call a full out. He's going to be doing 2.5 somersaults in the pike position, and in the middle he's going to add a twist. Very nice. A little loose on his pike, but he still went vertical. Great entry. That's going to be a good score.
Judges like it. 6.5 to a high of 7. 60 even for the round. 3:10.05 the total off a 3.0 degree of difficulty. Johann Schmidt, the senior from Tufts, is next.
Yeah, and Johann here, he's actually a 2012 1-meter champion here at the NCAAs. Very nice. Great tuck. Had a little bit of issues kicking out there. They're going to probably take off for that.
6.5 the low score. Actually a 6 the low score. The high is 7.5. Judge number 2 liked that dive. 56 even. 3:05.60 off a 2.8 degree of difficulty. His second round dive. Johann Schmidt, Max Levy, and Connor Dignan will be next. Levy.
Very nice. So that was a back 2.5 tuck. That's the first one we've seen in the competition tonight.
Just a freshman. Judges thought it was nice too. 6.5 the low, 7.5 the high, 58.80 for the round. Total score 296.75 for Denison freshman Max Levy. Connor Dignan will complete the second round of dives in the 3-meter championships from Denison, a junior.
So this is going to be a front 3.5 again, but instead of a tuck, it's going to be in pike. And he does a very good job with this in prelims. And again, he puts it down. That's a very difficult dive to do in pike, and the judges will reward him for that.
And indeed they do. Judge number 1 loved it. 9.0, a low of 7.5. 74.40 for the round, and he got a little breathing room there in that round. 360, you see the total for him. 360.60. Restaino is second at 3:10.05. Then Schmidt at 3:05.60. Howlett 297.15. Levy 296.75. We'll go through the lineup for the third of 6 times now. Matt Staub will be up first, the junior from Chicago.
Great dive. Matt's doing a 205C, a back 2.5 somersaults in the tuck position. Just a little over.
A low of 5.5. Good scoring, 6-0 to 6-5, 58-80. Total score, 340.60. James Stevick, the junior from Claremont.
So James is going to be doing a front 3.5. We've seen a lot of these so far in competition. It's a very common dive for the front. Good, he really got that going off the top, so a very nice top on the dive, but just missed the bottom, so he's going to be taken off for a little bit.
2.8 on the degree of difficulty, 5.5 and 6s abound of 54, or 50.40, 323.55, his score to this point.
Austin's next dive is a reverse 2.5 tuck. It's forwards on the board, spinning backwards. Pretty good, a little bit out away from the board, and a little slow rotation.
Howlett, 5.5, a couple of 6s, 49 for the round, 346.15 his total score. That's Austin Howlett, the junior from Colorado College. Denison sophomore Ben Lewis up next, looking to rebound from a score in the 20s last round.
We're going to be seeing a back 2.5 tuck on this one. This is one of the scarier dives for divers because of facing the board right on that. Just got off a little bit slow on his rotations and didn't quite make it around a vertical.
2.5 the low score, a high of 4. Bumped the score up a little bit, but still not going to be happy with that performance. 30.80, 310.65 the total. 2.8 the degree of difficulty on the dive for that round for the sophomore from Denison, Ben Lewis. Anthony Restaino trying to keep pace with your leader, Connor Dignan. He's up next, the junior from Chicago.
Yeah, and Anthony's going to be doing a back 2.5 in the pike position. So same dive we saw, except straight legs in that position. Pretty good, a little twisted off the board, so they're going to take off of that, and a little short, but still a pretty nice dive for a back 2.5 pike.
A low of 5 and a high of 6, 49.50, 3.0 the degree of difficulty, total 359.55. And that puts him in second place. Johann Schmidt, the senior from Tufts, up next, his third dive.
So we're going to be seeing the same dive, back 2.5 in the pike position. In prelims, he was able to put this down pretty well. He has a lot of strength and can get into a very nice pike. And as you can see, really got that dive going. Just came out a little late, going over.
3.0 the degree of difficulty, a 5.5 to a 6.5, 54 for the round. Total score, 359.60 for Johann Schmidt. Max Levy, the freshman from Denison, is next. Put up some pretty impressive numbers for a freshman.
Yeah, and Mac's going to be doing a reverse 2.5 tuck, where he goes forward, spinning backwards towards the board. Again, a little off to the right of the board, but he still manages to get into the dive and put it down well.
2.8 the degree of difficulty. Judges liked it, 5.5 to a high of 6.5, 49 for the round, giving them a total of 345.75. Max Levy. Connor Dignan, your leader now, the junior, with his third dive.
This is going to be a back 2.5 pike. Again, the same one we saw from Johann. Now Connor has a great build for a diver. He's a little bit longer on the top part of his body, a little shorter legs. He's going to be able to get into very good positions, which you'll see. And again, he puts that down. Not quite a rip on the entry, so he's just a little over, but that's still a great dive.
Yeah, the judges were happy with that, and they should be. A low of 7 to a high of 8. An impressive round, 67.50. His total balloons to 428.10, and he's really started to open up an advantage now. Halfway through this round of the 3-meter diving championships, we'll make our fourth trip through this roster of 8 now, and start with Matt Staub, the junior from Chicago.
Matt's going to be doing an inward 2.5. That's where he's standing backwards, flipping towards the board. This one is actually one of the most comfortable for divers, but scary for spectators.
Now, is the diving alignment set before this round ever starts for the judges' benefit, or can they make adjustments on the fly if they feel they need to make an adjustment to maybe score a little higher?
So they can actually change their dive on the board. The NCAa is the only governing body that allows that. So most of these guys don't want to do that. They've prepared their list, they know what they're going to do, and they come in and perform. But there might be a rare occasion where you'd see someone switch out a dive.
Not a lot of audibles in diving then, if we can use a football term.
That's correct. That was an inward 2.5 tuck. Great job. Very nice and vertical straight lines into the water and good hands. And when I say hands on that, I'm talking about the entry is a entry with no splash.
I've meant to ask this before. As I've mentioned, I've done swimming and diving for the men's and women's state championships for the last 4 or 5 years. Like, for instance, now with Howlett listed up there, dive number 205B. What is the significance of the 205B for those that are watching and listening and may not know?
Sure. So the first number in that series you see up there tells the direction of the dive. So that's going to be a front, back, inward, reverse, or a twister. And then the 5 on the end tells you the half rotations. So that if you divide that number by 2, that tells you how many times they're going to be somersaulting. So 5 is 2.5.
Thank you very much. We're happy to have J.D. Schomburg with us from the NCAA to serve as our analyst for diving. It's time for Ben Lewis now, the sophomore from Denison, who struggled the last couple of dives, but looked like he bounced back nicely.
He did.
There.
Yeah, that was a great dive. He was off to the side, and I was not expecting that kind of an entry. He really pulled that out.
Oh, the judges liked it too, and good for him. 61-60, and I think he exceeded his total with that one dive with the last 2 combined. 2.8 on the degree of difficulty, which gives you an idea of the struggles that that young man had. But that gives you an idea of the perseverance and maturity of that young sophomore. Anthony Restaino, he's trying in vain, the junior from Chicago, to keep pace with Connor Dignan.
Sure, this is going to be one of the more scary dives for a diver. It's reverse 2.5 pike. So you're getting into spinning back towards the board in the pike position, which is pretty difficult. As you can see, had a little trouble coming off the board, a little turn, but still a very nice dive, vertical, hands-on, and they reward him for it. Scored
well there off the 3.0 degree of difficulty. The total for round 4, 58.50. 4:18 for the meet to this point. 4:18.05, again giving him a firm grasp on second place, but your leader, Connor Dignan, is yet to approach the board. Johann Schmidt is next.
Yeah, and watch Johann on this height. He's a very strong diver. You're going to see him get some of the best height in competition. And that allows him to really complete the dives higher than any other diver here. So that was just pretty far over. He missed his spot, is what we call, to come out, and just washed over on that.
He has a grasp on third place now off of that 4th round performance. Max Levy is next, the freshman from Denison.
So again, here's that inward 2.5 I was talking about earlier. Spinning towards the board. Very nice. Now, from this angle, it does look a little scary that he's close to the board, but he was a good 1.5 foot out and nice and vertical and got a rip on that entry.
2.7 multiplied by 7's 56.70. 4:02.45 for Levy. Next up, your leader, Connor Dignan, the junior from Denison.
So Connor's going to be doing the inward 2.5 in a pike position. Now, you've noticed that he's been doing a lot of pike dives. Those are definitely a more difficult dive. So just that tells you that he's a more seasoned diver, being able to get into those harder positions and still holding 2.5 rotations.
Again, your leader, Connor Dignan.
Very nice. Great pike position. Nice and vertical. A little off to the board, but that's not going to be a big deal to the judges.
Going to bump that lead out just a bit more. 3.0 on the degree of difficulty. A low score of 6.5, a high of 7.5. He scores 63 for the round, and that lead balloons. You see it there on the right of your screen, 491.10 to 418.05. Schmidt, third place, at 4:04 and change as we get ready for the 5th trip through the list of divers this championship round at the IUPUI Natatorium.
That was a great dive for Matt. It's a little lower degree of difficulty, only a 2-4, and he wasn't quite into a pike position, but still got a great entry in vertical.
50.40, giving him a total of 439.60, scoring off a 2.4 degree of difficulty. Matt Staub, the junior from Chicago. James Stevick, Claremont Jr., up next.
So James is going to be doing a front 2.5 pikes with a full twist. So the same dive we saw Matt do, but he's going to add a full twist in the middle. Very nice. That's a difficult dive to do timing-wise, to come out for that twist. He did it well and put the dive down for big scores.
Judges liked it. 6.5 the low score, 7.5 the high. He scores 63 for the round. His total 443.25 for James Stevick, making way for Austin Howlett, the junior from Colorado College.
Austin's going to be doing an inward 2.5 tuck. Pretty good dive. He had a little slow rotation and was a little short on entry, but as you can see, the judges still like that he was good, clean entry into the water, which means just not a very big splash.
2.7 on the degree of difficulty. Round 5 score, 52.65. His total at 448.30. Ben Lewis had a nice dive last round, hit the 60-point barrier. Would like to add to his total of 372.25. Then, as we mentioned, just a sophomore from Denison.
Yeah, he's going to be doing that inward 2.5. Very clean diver. As you can see, his tuck was legs together, toes pointed, and clean hands. He was a little over, but the judges are going to reward that clean tuck and clean entry.
Another good round for him, 52.65. His total score bumps up to 424.90. Ben Lewis.
So we talked about that order. It seems like everyone's decided to put their inward 2.5s in this last round. As I said before, a lot of times that's a little more comfortable for the divers. So they'll like to put a comfort dive in the beginning to start off, and then some comfort dives in the end that they know they can put down for big scores.
Restaino, the Chicago junior, with a dive.
I was a little bit back, but still a great rotation, good tuck, and he got vertical.
Waiting on his scores now. There they are, a low of 5 to a high of 6, 44.50, 2.7, 462.60. You seem maybe a little surprised by those scores?
Yeah, definitely we have a different view than the judges. So that must have been, I could see it was a little further out than usual. That must have been a lot further. It's
Johann Schmidt, the senior from Tufts.
very nice. He was just a little short with his hands. His body was actually vertical, but he just misplaced his hands, which gave him the appearance of a bad entry. Seems like the judges noticed that and rewarded the rest of the dive for him.
A lot of sixes, 54 the total, 458.60 off a 3.0 degree of difficulty.
So Max is going to be doing a back 1.5 with 2.5 twists.
Just a freshman, as we mentioned. Pretty impressive prelims for Max.
Wow. So he really has come back. This is what I like about diving, is that you can put down a dive and not do it very well, but every dive is a new opportunity to come up and really score big, and as you can see, he's been doing that.
That dive looked good from the get-go. He got pretty good explosion off the board, didn't he?
Yeah, he definitely stood straight up and tall off the board, stretching real nice and tight through that twist, and that allowed him to come around and get an excellent entry.
Well, your leader trying to put a stranglehold on this one, Connor Dignan. He has a comfortable advantage.
This is going to be a reverse 2.5 tuck. I believe this is the only tuck he's doing in the competition, and like I said before, that's this dive to do in pike is one of the more difficult dives for 2.5 flips. So that looked like a great top. I think he just got a little juiced on that takeoff. He got great rotation and just not used to it and missed his entry.
They'll score him off the fives, basically. 44.80, his lowest scoring round, but he had the margin of error because of the lead that he had built up going into that 5th dive. He's at 535.90 now as we go through the final circuit of the 8 divers in the 3-meter diving championships.
So Matt's final dive is going to be that full out that I talked about, front 2.5 with a full twist. Very nice. Didn't get very much height off the board, so they aren't going to reward him as much as some of the other guys, but still put the dive down well.
5.5 the low, 6.5 the high, 54 even. His final total, 493.60.
So James is going to be doing a back 1.5 with 2.5 twists. This was done by Max just a little bit ago, and we're going to be able to see really how well Max's takeoff was. It is one of the best in the competition today.
Stevic.
Still very nice. That was an excellent takeoff as well. Just a little bit cockeyed on the twist, but still put the dive down and rewarded.
2.8 on the degree of difficulty, a low of 5.5 to a high of 6.5, 50-40. Overall score 493.65 for James Stevic, the junior from Claremont, making way for Austin Howlett from Colorado College.
Austin's going to be doing the same dive, back 1.5 with 2.5 twists. Very nice. He did a good job. Earlier in his dives, he's been letting his legs come apart a little bit. He did a great job keeping those together and completing the final dive.
Yeah, 448.30 going into the final dive. That scores pretty well. A low of 6 to a high of 7. 53.20. He cracks the 500 barrier at 501.50. Austin Howlett next up. Ben Lewis, and after a rough beginning for Ben, he has bounced back nicely with his last couple of dives. The sophomore from Denison looking to close strong here.
He's going to be doing a front 1.5 with 2 twists. That was pretty nice. Just barely missed that entry. It's pretty obvious on this kind of dive, but the top should be rewarded by the judges. Shouldn't take off too much for that.
2.5 on the degree of difficulty. Judges scores a low of 4 to a high of 5.5. 35 for the round, giving him a total of 459.90. I mean, you don't come here to simply get into the top 8, but it's still pretty heady for a sophomore to put up those kind of numbers in this D3 championship.
Yes, definitely. These divers are great. A lot of times Division III people don't expect the same level, but these guys are definitely guys that could be competitive in the D2 and D1 levels.
Anthony Restaino.
Very nice. Just a little off on the twist. We can see that here, but nice and vertical, so the judges are going to reward that big.
2.9 on the degree of difficulty. Waiting on the judges' total now. A low of 6, high of 7. 58 for the round. 520.60 for Anthony Restaino. Johann Schmidt from Tufts, the senior. Just a couple of divers left.
He's going to be doing a full out, the front 2.5 with a full twist. He has a lot of strength. I believe this is a dive he can actually do on 1 meter. And as you can see, he has no problem doing that. Just a little bit out, but with that height and entry, you can see they reward him for it.
Great round, 61.50 the total off the 3.0 degree of difficulty. That gives him a total and a pretty firm grasp on second place. 520.10. Next up, Max Levy.
Max dive is going to be a reverse twister, so reverse 1.5 flips with 2.5 twists. This one's always a crowd pleaser because it's a full body length going back towards the board. So it's forward approach, backward somersaults with a twist.
Some elevation on that dive.
And you can see he puts that down very well.
2.9 on the degree of difficulty. Judges liked it too. A low of 7.5 and a lot of 8s there. 68.15 for the round, giving him a total of 536.40. And that vaults him into, I think, what will be second place by the time Connor Dignan completes this dive. So a strong finish for Max Levy, but more importantly, a strong finish for Dennison.
Yes, exactly. They have a great program there. And they really are a family. They actually, the aquatics director is here supporting them. I was just talking to him earlier, and he came for the swimming and diving here. This is going to be a full out. He's currently 1 point behind with this dive left, and it is a good dive for him. As you can see, great height, great position, great twist, great entry.
May have saved his best for last off that 3.0 degree of difficulty.
And as you can see,
he did. Look at those 9s.
He didn't just get 9s. He held 9s within those ones that are going to be dropped off. So
78 for the round. You know, I'm not saying he showed any disrespect.